Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max and Trevor with BuzzTox here, breaking down Westworld Season 2, Episode 1. What's going on, Trev?
Not too much. Excited to get into it. Get into the thick of it.
I feel like we need one more episode to truly, build proper predictions. I feel like I have these predictions stemming, but I need an Episode 2 to really ground it in. Just like Season 1, I look back to Episode 2 when William was introduced and then we were able to see the timelines. I feel like a second episode will provide crazy context to what this season actually is.
Yeah. It's like I said in the first little review we did, it was a typical setup episode. You have to see those opening moves of where every chess piece is on the board, you know what I mean? They move out, they open up. So it's hard to determine where the game's going to go from the opening moves, but you got to see where they start.
Totally. And before we get started in the breakdown of the episode, I first want to touch on the opening credits. So they're vastly different than the first season. Vastly. The horse has been replaced with a bull, and we see the bull being designed. We see a mother with a newborn baby, and we see the bull jumping out of building glass and falling to its death. What do you make of that?
I could pull so much. There's so many symbols in this. It's crazy. I mentioned in the last one, that's how they used to hunt bulls, right? Where they would drive them towards a cliff in mass, and they would jump over and fall over the cliff and die, and they would go harvest them. But I also think, now having a few days removed from the episode, is bison were almost hunted to extinction in the time frame that Westworld is representing. So during the Western times, during colonization, when they moved to the West, the buffalo were hunted en masse and were almost extinct. So this is sort of like a symbolic symbol, for lack of a better term, of the extinction. Now it could go either way, right? Because This is the last dance at the disco for the hosts if they don't get it right, or this could be the end of humanity. So the stakes are pretty high.
Yeah, and with this, what I see is Dolores has taken the role of the Judas steer. That's the head bull. You see this bull jumping out of the glass and falling to its demise. You could say that that's almost the approach of true consciousness. And you see during that bull falling, you see almost a black hat, and that's what Dolores has to become to get these hosts to follow her. Also, when you see the newborn baby and the mom, that's almost like the next chapter to the last season's opening credits, where we saw a woman having sex with a dude. Now we see the woman giving birth to a child. So we're seeing that progression of the hosts, even in the opening credits.
Yeah, next step of evolution.
But now I want to get right into the show, and we start with Arnold, and he's pretty much lost in thought. And if I were to give him a diagnosis, I'd say he looks stressed out and concerned, and maybe there's something else on his mind. But Arnold pretty much tells Dolores about something that he was dreaming about. He said that he dreamt that he was on the shore of an ocean, and Dolores was on the distant shore. And he says that he wasn't with Dolores because she left him behind. And he also says that he saw the water rising all around him. And Dolores naturally asks and wonders what it means. And Arnold kind of shuts her down and says that dreams don't mean anything and they aren't real. And Dolores gets really philosophical and asks what is real. Arnold tells her that what is real is something that is irreplaceable. And I think that kind of represents his son. And Dolores comes in and says that that answer isn't completely honest. And then that kind of freaks Arnold out. And he says that she is growing and learning so quickly. He's nervous about who she might become and the path she might take. First of all, what I want to say is Arnold's fear of Dolores and who she will become and what form she'll take. I feel like that's a big path in this season. Will she go more of a black hat or more of a white hat? Will she become more good or more bad? And we see Dolores communicate that when she's torturing the guests. She's like, I could be Dolores, the sweet one, or I could be Wyatt, the mean one. But I'm really going to be myself. So the question is, who is herself? Is she going to be good? Is she going to be bad? What do you take from this scene with Arnold and Dolores?
Well, I think she's just becoming a leader. When you're a leader of a military action, let's say, or a president of the United States or a king, let's say, a queen in this case, You got to make hard decisions. People are going to die. But you also have to be fair. So it's where she ends up is the question, right? They're painting her out to be this monster that's now gone rogue, right? Like the movie. Mm-hmm. Like these things are out of control, but I think she's in control. She's just being painted as the villain right now. At least in the human's eyes. When in Arnold's timeline do you think this was? Because I think there's either two parts. This was either the day of the massacre, or maybe shortly thereafter his son had passed. And this is why he's having like a bit of a nervous breakdown while talking to her.
Well, this scene brings on many complications to me that I don't necessarily understand. Like, it could be 35 years in the past. But what gives me pause is the fact that he's mentioning his dream and how he woke up by the distant shore and Dolores was on the other side and they left him behind. And yet we see this happen in real time with Bernard. So what do you think that this means to the timeline? Because I'm starting to think that one of two possibilities. First of all, Bernard has a very strong connection to Arnold, one that is stronger than we might think. They keep focusing on the show with DNA, and you talk about that too. Maybe there's some sort of connection there where Bernard can share some of Arnold's past memories, and that's why it manifested here. Or there's somebody in the comment section who suggested something, Dark Lord's theory. And he brought up the possibility that maybe we're seeing Bernard and Dolores talk and discuss things. And I broke it down and tried to get into it further. And it could be possible. I said this in the last video I posted. Last season focuses in on Dolores' pursuit of consciousness. And the timeline is so jumbled in season 1 because Dolores' timeline is all jumped and messed up. She can't put the pieces together. And this season, it's like we're following Bernard try and put the pieces together as he reaches consciousness.
Yeah, he's reliving what he's already lived.
And
this is the whole thing that she did in the past.
Exactly. And a couple connections that I found today that blew my mind is, in season 1, the hosts don't believe in dreams. Only when they're in the outside world, they say that they're in a bad dream. And in last season, Ford had a discussion with Dolores, and Ford told her that she is in his dream. So what I find interesting is that Arnold would shut down the notion that dreams mean anything, because Ford, in season 1, said that dreams mean absolutely everything.
But I think that's a difference in their philosophy at the time.
No, you're right. And that's why I'm reading too much into it. It's a theory that I wanted to bring to the table. Because it could almost be a switch of fate. Like before, Arnold was sitting with Dolores testing her consciousness. And now Dolores is sitting down with Bernard to try and test his own consciousness.
Well, yeah, what you said earlier, like I feel like we need one more episode to fill in the gaps here, because what I see is Dolores being super cordial, almost obedient, like she has been in those past scenes where she's been in that basement doing those psychological analysis with Arnold from first season. Like she seems to be in like bios mode and answering his questions freely, but we've seen her now let loose and be able to access her good side and bad side when she's a little bit more human, right?
Right.
So that's what gives me pause to jump into that theory. I'm not saying it's a bad theory, because who the hell knows with this show, especially at this time. We've only seen the one episode.
I just wanted to bring it to the table because that's one way how Bernard could be recounting this dream he's having. It's not actually a dream. It's something that happened, and we saw it unfold in episode 1. And there are other ways that it could come forward. Dolores said in the past that she remembers everything. And maybe this dream that Arnold has conjured up about the ocean, Dolores is taking literally and maybe sees it as a bath to consciousness. But I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, there's like a baptism sort of symbology there too. Like being sort of born again. But what do you think it means for the whole facility?
What do you mean?
That they're sinking this motherfucker? We've never gone into the really credible theory, because I don't even know where you stand on it. Whether this facility where Westworld is, what are we calling it? Like Delos? No, like
I don't know.
Where
Westworld. I don't know.
Westworld facility and the ensuing worlds around it. There's a credible theory that it's in the middle of an ocean. Some people have said it's underwater, which is kind of crazy, but there's a couple hints more in this episode, especially.
Really? What are those hints?
Well, you had the Chinese army showing up.
Right. But that could just prove that there are islands near the Japan Sea.
Yeah, but it's like to create a landmass this size, you would need to sort of build this island, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had from season 1 the flooding of the lower levels, right? They said it was the air conditioning unit, but they couldn't control the flooding.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the mainland, like infiltrate mainland specifically, saying that it's not on mainland. So whether it is an island or an underwater facility somehow, it definitely is not on any mainland. So I really feel like they could be trying to sink this thing or sabotage it in a way.
See, I don't... Yeah.
How would they terraform something and nobody would notice?
I don't know, but it seemed like that was part of Ford's idea, no? Because Ashley said, I'm surprised that nobody noticed that Ford did this. Or maybe it's not confirmed who did it. I'm not really looking at that. It's definitely possible. I'm looking at more of what it represents. You talked about earlier how...
It's a wild theory, I know. But I just feel like the whole thing was like they wanted Ford out because he was playing fast and loose with the story, as well as he was terraforming the whole thing and everybody knew what he was doing. So for them, the hosts, or Ford with some weird secret plan, how would they get this going? I feel like this is brought on by like a saboteur, like someone's flooding this area.
I'm not sure. When I see this, I see it as a significant part of Ford's new storyline or plan. It's like the next step to the maze. What I mean by that, it's almost like what you said before. All those hosts in that water could almost be some sort of distraction, or it could mean something. Like, you said that they could be reprinting bodies.
Yeah.
Reprinting Dolores' body, reprinting all these guest bodies. And Bernard could have played a role in that, since we'll talk about it later. His memories in the past, he sees a skeleton, and that's could insinuate that he's reprinting bodies.
Yeah, he's pulling a Maeve.
And giving them their true new sentient body that they cannot be tracked when they go into the new world that Dolores wants to create.
Well, that's what makes me think about them sabotaging this. It's almost like a way of disgracing their birthplace, saying like that we weren't born, like we don't want to recognize being born in this hell place for us. We want to start fresh.
Yeah, definitely. No, that makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
I don't know. I don't know. It was just something I've been juggling with my mind.
I'd be interested to see like if they pay that off, because they have been leaving tidbits even in the last season.
Because I don't know if there's much of I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing it yet. I don't see that Ford's story continues. I feel like he's wrote the end on his story, and Dolores is now free will.
But he told the Man in Black that he wrote this story for him to find the door. He told the Man in Black that you played the maze, which was Arnold's story for the hosts. Now you're playing my story for you.
Yeah, but that factors into it being free range. Like, you always wanted it to have no limits. So here's your open-ended, procedurally generated Westworld here. Because anything goes.
Right.
We're off script now.
But anyways, I want to move on to Bernard after this. So Bernard ends up getting some flashbacks. And there's some of these where I'm confused, because there seems to be some flashbacks where Bernard is actually seeing Arnold. There are multiple scenarios where you see Arnold, who is seemingly stressed out, and that's separated from Bernard. So I don't know if those are really far back memories that we haven't seen as an audience member, or there really is some sort of connection that Ford implemented, some sort of connection between Arnold and Bernard, or maybe Dolores implemented some connection that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, because he definitely recreated his family. But did he get it to a point where they were as good as Bernard is? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Did he program their consciousness, or did he just try and get it as close as he could? Whereas Bernard got shot, maybe he could have pulled some procedure where he used their currently experimental technology to get him sort of Arnold 2.0.
And I could be totally wrong, but I'm waiting for the next episode. But it seems like there's even one shot with Bernard smiling with Dolores, and Dolores is wearing a black dress. And I don't think this is Bernard. I think this is Arnold. And I think Arnold ends up taking Dolores outside into the actual human society, where we see Dolores walk amongst all of the buildings and everything like that. And there's only one real reason why I say this, and that's the fact that Bernard wears all black. This is his gala outfit when he leaves the shooting. And then when we find him on the beach, he's wearing this white dress shirt.
Yeah.
And when you look at all the flashbacks of Bernard's finding Abernathy and being with Abernathy, he's wearing a white shirt. When you see Bernard in the headquarters, in the control center, he's watching Wyatt's men or Dolores' men shoot up everybody, and he's wearing that white dress shirt. And also Bernard's shooting up fools with his machine gun, and he's wearing that white shirt. So it seems like he does a wardrobe change eventually. I just don't know if he changes again into this blue shirt that he's seemingly wearing with Dolores. Because a lot of what this means is it's 2 weeks prior to what we see Bernard on the beach. We know that after the shooting happens, Bernard ends up in the barn. He goes into that headquarters with Charlotte, which we see in this episode. We know that he's going to meet Dolores, and Dolores is going to say multiple things. She's going to say, hey, Bernard, you don't know who you are, do you? Which insinuates that he's not conscious yet. And we're going to see Dolores tell Bernard that there is beauty in who they are. We know we're going to see that. And we're going to see Bernard in the control center as it gets shot up. And we're going to see him find Abernathy.
Interesting.
But there is some points, like him with Dolores in a dress, it doesn't add up to the plot right now.
Could it be like a way back, like when Arnold was still alive with Ford, and they were showing off the tech, and they're at a gala?
I don't know, like it almost could be, but I want to say, like Dolores says she can remember everything. So whatever she's doing with Bernard in this society, or Arnold, she's taking it in, and it will help her defeat the humans in the future, I guess.
How long after Bernard killed himself, effectively, was he recreated? Or sorry, how long after Arnold shot himself was Bernard created?
I don't know. I think he was created a while after.
Yeah, because I remember seeing like Anthony Hopkins is like CG,
Yeah, and he's
younger,
old.
And then he's not quite as Ford old, like when he meets his demise, but he's like
He's a little older, yeah.
middle-aged.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to think of like, could it be that time frame? Because then, what time frame is William? Would William know Bernard? Like, that's even a weirder situation.
This is
right?
why we need one more episode to provide context.
Yeah, there's some weird crossover there.
Because
it's like, if William has ever met Bernard, he doesn't age.
Yeah, because we know
Like
that we've seen parties with Logan, and we've seen Bernard and Dolores in a party situation. So I feel like there's something there.
Well, that's what I'm trying to cross paths with in my mind. Like, I pictured William at a gala or party trying to drum up investments for Delos or Westworld, right? Because that was the whole thing, why they're there.
Mm-hmm.
And Ford would definitely be at that party because he's the creator, but maybe he would send Bernard?
I
don't know. It's crazy.
See, that's a tough one that I don't completely know the answer to. All I know is that these visions, a lot of them hint at what we're going to see that led to Bernard laying on the beach. And some of them, I don't know if it is Arnold yet or if it's Bernard. I need one more episode to make that judgment. But then we see Bernard wake up on the beach. And once again, he's wearing a different shirt, a white shirt, than the one in which he was shot up in the gala. And the first person who comes to him is Ashley. He recognizes him he recognizes Bernard on the beach and takes him away. Which, the last time we saw Ashley, he was taken by natives. So what happened?
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, so what happened?
Yeah, he was just a badass. And he got away, I guess.
But it just seems so weird. Like he was acting like almost nothing happened.
No, like I feel like he got taken when shit hit the fan.
Well, I was thinking that too. Either he became a badass and was able to escape when all shit went crazy, or there's something more complicated at work.
It could be. But I feel like his story checks out right now. He was a badass. He ran out of bullets. It looks like he got taken. He managed to escape in the ensuing craziness. And he better than anybody would know the back doors and elevators and control rooms to get through. But he couldn't, like, he was probably the one that contacted everybody. Yeah. Because everybody else was getting iced.
Yeah. And I think Bernard is very confused as to what's happening. Ashley even asks him how long he's been out here, and Bernard doesn't answer.
I think, okay, you want to hear my theory here?
Yeah.
I think he got reprinted.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I don't know why he would be on the beach. Maybe he came up from whatever the ocean is. Like, that's not making sense in my head. But this is why he's confused. He's like just fresh out of the printer, and when he gets turned on for the first time, someone's usually there to give him diagnostics. Like when Ford woke him up for the first time, he's sort of like, hey, like, you got to listen to me. This is that. Like, listen to what I'm saying. But no one's really there for him to do it. But he's also now self-aware, as where we're going to catch up to. But he has to catch up with everything that just has gone on.
Well, and I think we got a hint at how Maeve bumped up all of her stats. We almost see that with Bernard. When he walks through and sees all the military arrive, he then talks to the commander, and he finishes his sentence.
Yeah.
They both say less than ideal. And I almost got this sense that Bernard has this heightened sense of... I can't find the word. But he's at this heightened intelligence where he can read people before they even utter out the words. And that's that scalability that I think Maeve has discovered. So I agree with you. I think he was reprinted and he was given the highest stats in every situation. And he's trying to piece together all the shit that led to him on the beach. And it makes even more sense because it focuses in on Bernard's trauma. His hand is constantly shaking. And what we notice is that Bernard's hand isn't shaking when he's on the beach.
No.
Like he's been cured. And I think that only comes with a reprinted body because his brain is leaking.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only repair that he could have done, a fresh print.
Yeah, it has to be. And it's like the only printer I can think of that would be untouched by the chaos is the one in the room where he would host meetings with Dolores. What Ford was printing... theoretically printing him before.
Yeah.
There's like Michelangelo painting on the wall, and there's a 3D body printer in the corner.
Exactly. And you know what makes a lot of sense about that? Is Bernard was found on the beach, and we actually know where this location is. The commander specifically says that he came to this beach because this is the location where most of the board of Delos was before the shooting. And guess where that is? That is where Dolores and Teddy had their final goodbye and died at night on the beach, and Ford showed the board, and they were all sitting there watching. And that is so close to the gala in the church where they had that party.
So maybe Dolores helped them print him and put him specifically there.
And then left him.
Well, no, going back to what I'm saying about the diagnosis, she couldn't be there to help him wake back up. So she did something that he would remember by doing the dream. So he would walk through his dream, and maybe there's some hidden code in there by, like, that's the password to reboot yourself or something crazy like that. Like to walk through, to relive the steps that you need to sort of get back into your code.
Yeah, because I find it very funny how Bernard's going to go on this giant adventure that we're going to see. And he ends up pretty much right where he started, very close to the church where this body is being printed. And I wouldn't be surprised if that body that Ford was printing in the beginning was already Bernard, because he feels like he's one step ahead of everybody already. Like, he let Bernard shoot himself. Exactly. He let Bernard shoot himself last season because he knew that Maeve was programmed to go down there and save him.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to me if he was always one step ahead. So I think that pushes further that Bernard is going to be reprinted.
Yeah, for sure.
Another piece of information we get is the commander says that communications have been down for 2 weeks. What that tells us is that from when the shooting happened, when Dolores killed Ford, it's been 2 weeks since this moment Bernard is on the beach. So that's 2 weeks for Bernard. That is 2 weeks for Bernard to find Abernathy, to talk to Dolores like we've seen in the visions, as well as be there and shoot up HQ, or the command center, as well as for Ashley to escape, and all of these different things. And during this time, the Man in Black is going on his journey to find the door. Dolores is shooting up a lot of guests. Like, a lot of stuff happens in those 2 weeks.
It's great because I'm trying to think of. I'm going back to Ashley now because it's like he's 2 weeks plus a day, and he didn't see Dolores or he didn't see Bernard walking around in this time. That seems kind of crazy. There might be something to Ashley then. Like, he was there to wake him up.
And what's even crazier, too, is that the military has arrived. And I'm going to quickly touch on that scene with Bernard and Charlotte. We learn that Delos is not sending any help until they get Abernathy. So the fact that the military is there 2 weeks later and communications have been brought back online tells us that they have received Abernathy. Or they have received the information from Abernathy.
Could be.
And whether that's because of Bernard or not, it's unknown.
Or it's a clever trick to get them to come.
But anyways, they continue down the beach and they find this native. And they end up looking over the footage, and this happened 11 days, 9 hours ago. So just less than 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we see this native running and get shot up by Dolores. And Dolores ends up telling the native, "I told you, old friend, not all of us deserve to make it to the valley beyond." So what the hell is she talking about?
Oh, it could be... She could be selective.
But what is her criteria? She doesn't like natives? She's a secret racist?
No, I don't think it's that. I think it's maybe like it's beyond the code. Like maybe their coding is so either old, but he was an organic one. That's what I had the biggest problem was that they literally scalped a native. That was crazy. I can't believe that nobody's talking about that.
Yeah.
But he was an organic one, so I was thinking maybe he was just an older one. But I don't know. I don't know why. There's obviously a selection process, or maybe he's never been through it. Like, maybe he hasn't suffered.
Because I feel like the Valley Beyond is this place Dolores wants to go to take all these hosts to reach consciousness, be away from humans, and be safe until they're ready to take over their world. And I don't know what this criteria is. Is she only counting a certain amount of people who are close enough to consciousness? Maybe potentially to make them a body? She doesn't want everyone to be tracked to this valley beyond that she wants to take them to.
Maybe he's new. He's too new.
What do you mean he's too new?
Like, Sizemore was the one that was bringing in the native story.
Oh, that's it. That's got to be it.
And he hasn't suffered enough like the OGs.
They don't have, no, I know, yeah, totally. They don't have enough reveries to look back on to help them reach consciousness.
Like, these rich people come for this cowboy and Indians type fantasy.
Right.
Which is despicable, and they would kill these people like crazy. The only thing I can think of was this poor native got shot by and then scalped by the IT people of Delos, but he hadn't suffered enough in the eyes of Dolores in order to be a part of the people that are being brought on.
You're totally right. Dolores is actively selecting people who have been around for a while, who have a long list of reveries that they can look back on to help push them into the maze or into consciousness. Totally.
It could be. I could be totally wrong because she does say old friend, but I don't know.
But anyways, we go to Bernard, and we realize that his hand isn't shaking, so that shows or proves again that he is fine, potentially a new body. And then he flashes back to the barn, and this is during the shooting, and he's hiding out. And we clearly see that he's injured. He's leaking he's leaking brain fluid.
Brain milk.
And they finally make it out of the barn in pursuit of an outpost.
Yeah. I'm just trying to... my thing is, like, why would Bernard be even stressed in this situation? Because I don't think he knows at this point, right? Or is he running on code where he... No, he knows that he's a host.
What are you talking about?
So why would Bernard be freaked out and hiding in a barn?
Because he doesn't want to die.
Yeah, but why would he be a target?
Well, I think he's still
like he was
scared,
just
but
literally in the room with them before the whole massacre happened.
I know, but I think that he's still fearful. But I feel like if a situation faced him, he might not have died.
Yeah, like I don't think he was already resurrected by Maeve. And he was in the room with Ford and Dolores when they were talking about it. It just seemed weird to me that he would be having to hide in a barn from getting shot and be so stressed out about it.
I just think that wasn't on his mind. He was scared for his life. And I think we almost see that connection with Angela when all the guests start running out to that truck. And he says, Charlotte, like, stay back. Like, this might be a trap. And I think that kind of cues into his robotic sixth sense. He's able to cue into that stuff.
Or maybe Dolores is, like, transmitting this out to everyone that's a host, right?
I don't know if she can do
that. She has
that.
control over Wyatt's men, which I didn't notice in the first watch. I thought it was only her and Teddy when they were hanging up those dudes, but I clearly saw when I watched it again that there was Wyatt's men there.
Well, I know they're Wyatt's men, but I think Ford programmed them to do what Dolores says. I don't think Dolores herself is under control of them because she's reached consciousness. I don't think she has any connection.
So you don't think she has
them.
Maeve? You don't think she has Maeve powers in order to get them?
No, because I think Maeve was approved of those powers, and she can only do them because she's connected. Dolores is no longer connected. She's completely sentient and conscious.
So as long as she's staying as Wyatt, these guys and a few ladies will follow?
Yeah, these people were programmed to follow her until the moment they reach true consciousness.
Okay.
It's a program left over by Ford. But yeah, we do see Dolores. She's gunning down all of these guests, and we see her kind of reliving her past. She tells these guests that they're in her dream, which is kind of vice versa to what happened to her last season. She was always told that she was in another's dream. And she's constantly, like, she talks to one woman, and she asks what her drives are. And she figures out survival is her cornerstone. So she's really pushing on, you know, I'm going to treat you the way I was treated. But what I found most interesting is that she said, like, hey, I could be Dolores, the sweet one, and see the goodness in you and let you go. Or I could be Wyatt and kill you and see the ugliness. But she said, you know, I'm not going to play any of the roles they gave me. I'm going to play myself. And that's the true definition of consciousness that no other host has reached yet. Next, I want to talk about William, or the Man in Black. We see him finally come out from under the shooting, and this is probably the next morning. He kills 2 people like a badass. He washes his wound out, and then he goes on an adventure.
With whiskey.
Damn right. And the most interesting part is that he makes it to a campsite, eats some jerky, and then he finds young Robert Ford. And young Ford asks the Man in Black if he achieved what he wanted. And he tells William that he made it to the center of Arnold's maze, but now it's time to play Ford's game.
This is where maybe we disagree, and until we see another thing. I don't think there's anything here. I think he's just gotta survive.
Really? Okay, see, I see a lot more. So, specifically, young Ford tells the Man in Black that he must find the door. And he says that the game is specifically meant for him. And he gives him one key hint. The game begins where you end, and it ends where you began. And Ford tells William not to worry because the game will find him. So you think all of this setup means absolutely nothing?
Well, what fits that description perfectly?
What I think
is a circle. He's just gonna have him running around in circles.
This
is almost dying and getting his rocks off because he loves it.
this is what I think. I think it means so much more. And I think it stems, this is a crazy out there prediction. This to me stems from the Black Hat versus White Hat. Dolores right now, we're seeing her go in a direction. And we've seen Arnold express concern. I don't know if you're going to become good or you're going to become bad. You're making me nervous, right? And we got a hint of Dolores today that she can be ruthless towards these guests. The Man in Black is so unique because he was a human who fell in love with the host, Dolores.
Yeah.
They had genuine love. And it ended up tarnishing because Dolores wasn't real, and it broke the Man in Black's heart. So I think where the game begins where you end and it ends where you began, it really comes into him having some part to play with Dolores. And I think this part that he's going to play, I think Ford may think that it would steer her in the right direction. Even though the Man in Black has done terrible things to her in the past, and Dolores still remembers the love that they had for each other. And I think it could potentially show that humans are not all bad and lead into a more peaceful, better Dolores, who's better than humanity. Because Ford in the last season goes on about how you can't trust us humans. We're irresponsible. We're, all these shitty things. We're bad people. And he wants Dolores and all of these hosts to be something better. And he might think that the Man in Black is key. And that's why it's a mission for the Man in Black.
I agree to a certain extent. I think you're going to see the Man in Black, William, turn back into a white hat. He's gonna have not like a white hat, but I think he's going to be able to see the cause of the hosts, to be able to see why they should be set free.
Right.
Because it's like he always appreciated Ford's art, but he expressed it in a weird way by being this crazy savage.
Right.
And he just consumed all of it, so much that he got tired of it, that he started making up his own games, and then ensuingly following games that weren't even for him, albeit the maze.
But a lot of that stemmed from him wanting Dolores to be real. Like when he went back and he harmed Dolores and he hurt Dolores, he just wanted to see the true her. He wanted to see, not her suffer, but he wanted to see her true self, because that's when they become most real, is when they're in pain.
Yes. No, and that I agree with.
So it's like he's been constantly searching for Dolores and wanting Dolores to be real, and now she's finally conscious. I feel like he has a very specific and powerful role to play.
But do you think if they met at this point in time, this timeline, that she would be happy to see him? You would think he would. You would think that she would want to kill him more than anyone.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint it, to be honest with you. All I know
in
is that
this
Dolores
state,
remembers...
like she seems out for revenge for everyone that has anything to do with Delos, Westworld, whether like in any small state. Like,
but at
they
the
killed
same
that
time,
woman. She
I
might have
agree
just
with
been
that.
the wife of a worker there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I agree with that. But also at the same time, she remembers everything. She probably remembers that time with William. And she appreciates Teddy so much, and he was through everything. But Teddy was pretty much based off of William. So
Yeah,
I
like
think
William's first visit.
I think there's something there, yeah. And I think the Man in Black's going to go on his mission. I think next episode or the episode after, we're going to see Lawrence. I think he's going to go back to Lawrence and befriend him again and go on their mission. Because right now, the Man in Black, there is no military. They have 2 weeks until they arrive, and he's going to have to make some friends. And I think he's going to go to Lawrence, and he's going to go to the place where Dolores first became conscious. And that's going to be like the beginning, end, and began type of thing. And I think that's where he's going to start his mission.
Yeah, it would be cool. Definitely be cool.
But anyways, we go to the headquarters. We see chaos unfolding. We see Sizemore almost get eaten by a cannibal.
Yeah.
He ends up finding Maeve. She saves him. He tells her that he'll help find whatever she wants to find if he's taken to the control room. And what this means to me is we're talking about timelines. And the fact that Sizemore is still alive means to me that this is relatively soon after the shooting began. And why that's so significant is when they go to the control room, everyone's dead. So that means that Bernard and Dolores' army ended up at this control room relatively early.
You don't think this was the work of Maeve's crew?
No, well, we see it. We see we see Dolores' men kill everyone in the control room.
Yeah.
From one of Bernard's visions. So it goes to show that I think we're going to be seeing Bernard in that control room sooner than we think.
There's so many layers.
I know, right? But with Maeve's storyline, there surprisingly isn't as many layers. It's pretty straightforward. She ends up finding out that her daughter's in Section 53. It's a family-friendly zone, and that's where she was before. Maeve's daughter never left. Maeve ends up getting Hector to go save her daughter, who is in the same place that she was before. But I think here Maeve's going to have a wake-up call, because the moment she goes to save her daughter, she's not going to be mom anymore.
Yeah.
Her daughter's going to be given a new mom. So I think that will hit her pretty hard.
Yeah.
And she hasn't reached consciousness yet because she's still living the story of someone else.
Yeah, she's on a pre-programmed path right now.
Yeah.
With a little bit of liberties.
Exactly.
But I think those liberties will get her into a situation that's jarring enough in order for her to reach consciousness. That's why maybe seeing her daughter, I don't know if she's going to come to another violent end. Because what's your take on her going into Shogun World then?
I don't know. I think she'll finish up what she's doing with her daughter and then go to Shogun. I have no idea. I'm still holding out that hopefully she becomes the Judas Deer of Shogun World, but she's not even conscious yet, so I don't know. Because
she has administration control, like she's got control, so she could kind of hide herself. It's interesting. But then Sizemore's he's a liability.
Yeah, so the problem is that you have all these different parks. Why Shogun World? Why is it so significant? And if her daughter's not there, we're going to need a couple episodes to provide some context.
Well, no, you're saying the daughter is in a family-friendly zone of Westworld. That's why they started to get Westworld closer.
Yes.
Yeah. So what brings her to Shogun World then? That's what's interesting.
No idea.
Because that was my initial thought was that her daughter's somehow in Shogun World. That's why they had to go there.
That's what I assumed too.
But they're taking this way different.
Yeah, I have no idea. And then we go to Bernard and Charlotte, and they found a bunker. They go inside. Bernard doesn't know it exists. And what I want to draw first on with this scene is it constantly harkens back to DNA. It's a DNA scanner to get in. Bernard seems paranoid because his host is standing behind him. And Bernard's almost stressed out that they recognize him as a host.
Yeah.
And these things are called drone hosts, and they pretty much do the dirty work for humans in these secret bunkers. And then on top of that, all that DNA foreshadowing, Bernard finds out that they're logging records of guest experiences and their DNA. That goes to hint, it makes me think that this DNA is going to have significance moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing. I think it's a huge part of the plot. I may be mistaken, but I believe the follow-up to Westworld, the movie, Future World, that was the plot, was that this corporation was trying to clone political figures so that they could have them be in control of these key leaders around the world. So I don't know, maybe it's not as shady as that, but there's something to it. I think right now in my mind it's just blackmail. Right?
Right. Because then there's a lot of interesting things there. Because a lot of the characters we like now are hosts. So what happens when you take the Man in Black and you take some of his DNA and you create a young William again? So there's a lot there that I just don't understand.
Yeah. Because, then take Arnold, for example. He's a perfect example. He was a clone, where Bernard is a clone of Arnold. So we know they're capable of doing it, and then all of Ford's family were perfect replicas of his family.
It's a debate, though, that it was the artist drawing the portrait of what they envisioned that individual to be, or if it was a carbon copy based on the DNA of that individual.
Mm.
So it's like a new level of a recording of an individual. Like Bernard could potentially be what Ford thought of Arnold to be. All of his perceptions of what he thought Arnold would be. But if they used Arnold's DNA, it would be an exact carbon copy of that individual.
Maybe there's a plot there that has yet to be unfolded then.
I don't know. But what else we learn is that Delos refuses to rescue anybody until they get Abernathy. And that goes into my thoughts before, is that they arrive 2 weeks later, which pretty much to me insinuates that Abernathy did get in the hands of the military and they did extract that information for Delos. And we do kind of see that in the trailer. We see a bunch of men all over Abernathy.
My call, long shot call, it's a virus.
The virus?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be interesting.
It's not what they're trying to get.
I hope Abernathy becomes more like a character again.
Oh my God! Please bring. We're like Abernathy fanboys.
I know, we love Abernathy. He's the
best.
But
he's amazing.
He's the best. He's absolutely the best. And which is so great because Bernard actually agrees to go find Abernathy. He uses like a mesh network thing to activate a subconscious link between all of the hosts.
That's what I was trying to tell you.
And this is crazy because it's like an anthill.
Yeah, it's a hive mind.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. I think Bernard has access to this, even like at all stages. That's why he's able to finish sentences, and maybe that's not the biggest part of it, but like that's why he knew that it was a trap.
Yeah, exactly. He's got a read on these hosts because of that network.
Hosts seem to know what hosts are. Right? Like, they seem to know, like, oh, that's a host. That's why that drone host knew that Bernard was a host. And that's why I think Bernard knew that that whole shit was a trap, because he knew it didn't smell right. Because he didn't activate this hive mind protocol until after that scene. But I feel like it's mission critical that he gets these instincts.
Exactly. And that's why Bernard is relatively safe when he's traveling, because they can just sniff the host off each other. But we know that he is going to end up coming across Abernathy, so it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. And it's going to be interesting to see how long he actually stays with Charlotte, because we know that they're not going to last forever, because it seems like Bernard goes on his own for a bit.
Is it me, or does Charlotte seem completely cool with this situation? She doesn't really seem that stressed out.
I know, eh?
Like, everyone she knew died, and the park's falling apart, and she's still worried about getting Abernathy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, she's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. She is nuts. But we'll see. We also see Dolores and Teddy, and they make it to a clearing. Here we get to see a little bit more of how Dolores is now. Teddy just doesn't want any more blood and violence. Like, he's done. And they pretty much talk about how they don't have a choice, and Dolores feels like they have to stop the humans or else they'll never be safe.
Yeah.
But Dolores continues to tell Teddy that she remembers everything. All the good, all the bad. And in all those memories, Teddy is always that one constant thing. And I think that's scary to think that Dolores remembers absolutely every encounter since her existence. I think that has a lot to play going forward, especially with her connection to Bernard and Arnold.
Yeah. Maybe she remakes Arnold. And this is him waking up on the beach.
Well, yeah, because she was always so fixated on him. And we know based on Bernard's visions or memories that she knows that he isn't conscious yet. Like, she's like, Bernard, you really don't know who you are yet, do you? So I think she really wants Bernard to come along. And even in season 1, Bernard was the thing that pushed her into consciousness. As soon as she saw Bernard, she broke down because she remembered that she killed Arnold and all these different things.
Yeah.
So I think there's a strong connection between them. So we'll see how that unfolds. But because she remembers all this, she says that she knows the past, present, and future. So she sounds unstoppable. And she says she knows how the story ends, and that is with Dolores and Teddy being together, which is sweet. But what's most interesting is that Angela comes in. And before we saw her kind of capturing all these hosts and killing them, but all she says is, "We found it." What did she find? Because Dolores then goes to Teddy and tells Teddy that he needs to see the truth.
Could it be a door into the facilities? Like, he would see the control room, he would see that stuff, and that brings them to the control room where they shoot up the people.
That would make sense. And then that would get Bernard and Charlotte separated, and Bernard on track with Dolores, because they wouldn't harm him. What's key is that they say it. And it also has to show Teddy the truth. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be a host like Bernard or Abernathy. Could it be that ocean that Bernard finds? I don't think so. I think that's the most correct. It's some type of headquarters that would lead Dolores in to kill everybody, to show Teddy what they're really capable of and how they run everything.
Yeah, she's showing him behind the curtain.
Exactly. And I think that's where the connection between Bernard and Dolores could potentially start. But speaking of Bernard, we follow him for one last time. He makes it to the gala where they had the party. We see a decomposing Ford, which shows all the time that passed.
Yeah.
They end up coming across a tiger, which what I found out is they're not in Japan. So this is another park.
Yeah, cool.
Because I think there are multiple parks under the Delos Corporation. So why...
Yeah, so this isn't from Shogun World.
Right. So why is an asset coming in all the way to Westworld? Like, what is the significance there?
It's like you said, like a beacon.
Well, yeah, it seems like he was trying to congregate to that grouping of guests that Bernard stumbles on in the end of the episode. Or host, sorry. It seems like they're attracted to that ocean.
Yeah, they're coming in from all parts. Dude, I'm telling you, man. Remember Noah's Ark?
Yeah.
And you might not know from your Bible studies, but like even the movie,
right?
All the animals started coming in to one point. And what was it for? To get on the boat to avoid the flood, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this place is sinking. And it's going down. Both figuratively and literally. And maybe all those people are there to be picked up. Like, what do they care?
But what would explain all the hosts being together? And all the hosts running into Westworld specifically? Like, you could give one solution, and I would say it's that mesh network that Ford activated. It resulted in all of the hosts congregating together. But I think that's a shallow prediction. I think there's a lot more depth to it.
Man, I don't know. I feel like it's a ritual. Like, everyone that gets a new body goes there to see their old body sort of, in a weird way, be baptized.
Well, yeah, it's a way of shedding their skin.
Their old skin, yeah. Like, there's the snake, right? On what's-her-name's back. Lots of symbols here. And that's what I mean. Like, I feel like they went there to do, like, some crazy new age robot baptism thing. And maybe they say goodbye to their old bodies and they leave them here.
And it's a good strategy for Dolores because she leaves all their past bodies there that are being tracked. And she takes all of these new hosts who have long since been through like shit. They have a lot of reveries and they could become conscious. And she takes them to the valley beyond where they can't be tracked with these new bodies they have. And she's giving them the bodies of life to move forward. And that makes sense just symbolically because Bernard is looking over a cliff, almost like that bull. It's like a fall down the mountain into the water. And that's like the jumping point into consciousness. But I'm not sure. But one important thing is that Bernard takes all the blame. He's like, I killed them. So it's interesting to see why he feels that way.
I think he's telling the truth, though. He just doesn't understand the context yet.
I think he is too. We see in his past, we see a skeleton being created. He could be creating bodies. There are many reasons why. But the most important thing that we didn't catch the first time is Teddy is laying in the water.
That's crazy.
So that insinuates a lot. And the most important thing is that Teddy actually isn't wearing his Western clothes. He's wearing civilized, modern clothing. Security guard clothing. And this harkens back to the trailer that it seems like they break in to headquarters, and it looks like, this could be just me, but it looks like he puts a gun on Ashley. This is why I find it suspicious. If they found Ashley, they couldn't let him go. They would kill him and reprint him, maybe.
Yeah, but we haven't even established that they would do that yet. Why would they kill a human and reprint them?
Yeah. I don't know, but that's mystery how Teddy now is in the water. Because he's considered Dolores' right-hand man. Dolores wouldn't leave him behind. She wants him to reach consciousness.
But what if he doesn't? Right? Or what if he doesn't like where it's going? And that's a human thing, right? Like, you can't make someone do what you say. He might reach consciousness in a way, and then they don't see eye to eye.
Yeah. And then it's like, it's the bath too. It's the bath. It's Arnold too, like looking back at him saying, I had a dream I was on the distant shore. Like the dream and what actually happened, I can't find that connection yet. I need one more episode to see it through.
Like, what if he's referring to the massacre and he's waking up? Not that he's drowned all these people, but he's referring to when he first massacred them all.
Yeah.
In the initial killing.
I don't know.
Or maybe he's referring to the people. And he feels guilty. Because he knows from his actions came Dolores' actions.
I'm not sure. But I'm interested to see what it's like going forward. Will Bernard constantly be looking back? Or are we going to see more progression on this timeline of him finding all those guests or finding all those hosts in the water and then moving forward from there? I really don't know.
I'm so excited to watch the next episode now.
Me too. I'm pumped. I feel like it's going to be like last season. That second episode is going to provide a shit ton of context that we'll be able to shape an accurate theory on.
Do you think there'll be any like present day timeline, like where we see Bernard, or it's all going to be in the past? Specifically Bernard.
Well, isn't the present right now Bernard finding that lake of dead hosts?
That's what I'm saying. Do you think there'll be scenes continued from that point? Or that is the cutoff and we're going to catch up to that point near the end of the season?
I feel like they might end up just going back and forth like they did last season. I'm not really sure. We'll see Bernard discover more and more as time goes on. We'll see him stumble across more things, and as an audience we can try and put the puzzle pieces together. I think they will be jumping back and forth. And I think we'll be seeing Bernard come in touch with Dolores probably next episode.
I think it's going to be a flashback of them dealing with each other.
Exactly. So
that's going to build that relationship even further.
Yeah, so I think that whole thing is going to be really interesting, and I'm really excited to see what's next. Do you have anything else to say?
Not this. You've got the juices. You've got that brain milk in my head going right now.
Well, that's what we need. Next episode, we need to see what happens and try and break it down to the best we can. But so far, all we got is really light hypotheses on what we think would happen. And this one theory, literally all day, I was thinking about the connection between Arnold and his dream to Bernard finding all these dead hosts in this water. And honestly, I could not find a connection that I was discounting. So I need one more tidbit to make an effective theory.
It's the Noah's Ark, man.
Yeah, it's a good call. But anyways, that's it for today, everybody. We'll be back with more Westworld videos. But until next time, see you guys later.
Take care.